Hello, and welcome to She Leads Biotech, the podcast that celebrates women leaders in the bioscience space. I'm your host, Sharon Cox, CEO and Managing Director of CNA International, based right here in New York. And each week I'll be talking to women leaders about their work, their triumphs and challenges, providing invaluable insight into how women can unlock their superpowers and succeed on their own terms. So whether you're navigating your own career path in bioscience or you're passionate about science and innovation, I hope you're empowered and inspired by each episode. Today's guest started her career as a software developer, from early days coding in a small Boston startup to leading a global team of 250 people at a company later acquired by Oracle. She's built a remarkable career at the intersection of technology, life sciences, and healthcare. She's held leadership roles at pioneering companies and most recently served as Chief Operating Officer at a digital health spin-out from AstraZeneca. Beyond her professional achievements, she brings a deeply personal perspective as a 3 times cancer survivor, openly sharing her story to inspire authentic leadership and more patient-centered approaches in the industry. Her passion for digital health, AI, and truly patient-focused solutions shines through in everything she does. So please welcome the accomplished operator, mentor, and advocate, Chief Operating Officer and Digital Health Leader, Ami Mehr. Hey, Amy. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. It's finally sunny here in Boston today.
Oh, is it? Oh, I think we've lost it here in New York. It must have come to you. It was with us yesterday. Now it's your turn. So enjoy. Got quite a bit that I want to unpack with you. You're not a scientist or anything like that, are you? But you've had a good 25 years in that sort of intersection between digital, software, life sciences. Talk me through your journey. How have you got to where you are?
Yeah, it's been I would say it's definitely been not what I ever could have expected. And I always tell people, and no one ever believes me at this part of my career, but believe it or not, I actually started out as a software developer writing code.
Okay.
I was a math major, computer science major. And actually, believe it or not, I actually wanted to go to vet school and take care of horses. That's actually how I started out. And like a lot of like young students, things don't go as planned. I went into consulting, packed my bags after college, moved to Boston, worked for a 30-person startup, and was one of 3 women. And after doing software development, honestly got sick of it. I was traveling Monday through Friday. And believe it or not, looked at the email address of one of these women that I really admired, and she had gone to a startup company called Phase Forward. And at the time, didn't know a lot about Phase Forward, but believe it or not, they were a startup company doing things with clinical trials. So I picked up the phone, I called her, and long story short, she gave me a job as a project manager. And that really was the springboard for me really getting into the life sciences industry. And that was the starting point of what I'd like to say has been a tremendous career. I was an individual contributor, learned everything about clinical trials, managed to be part of that company, starting out as a project manager. That company eventually got acquired by Oracle. And at that point in
Oh,
time,
wow.
I was a senior director managing a team of 250 people, went through a number of acquisitions. And so that took me from being an individual contributor to managing a huge team globally. And I then went on to work for Viva, working as a founder of a clinical data management tool. And then went on to actually work for another startup company called Benchling, where I had the opportunity to learn about bioanalytical software. And then most recently had the opportunity to be part of another digital health spinoff from AstraZeneca called Evanova, where actually most recently I was chief operating officer. So what I like to tell people really who are starting out, because I mentor a lot of individuals, is that you really never really know what's going to happen with your career. And I've just really been lucky and that I've been provided with a lot of really great opportunities. But it's never what I would have predicted. I never expected that starting out as a software developer, I would have ended up where I am today.
Wow. And you say luck. I mean, a lot of us, women in particular, we we apportion a lot of what happens to luck. Oh, I was lucky. I was in this right place at this right time. But is it really luck, or is there that it might be in the subconscious, but is there a path? I mean, the leadership and managing that number of people, that must have still been quite early on in your career when you were doing that. What was that journey like? Going from a hands-on operational person to managing other people, because that's a whole different skill set, right?
It is a whole different skill set. I will say that there's a little bit of art and a bit of science to going through this process. And I would say most certainly there's luck involved, but what I'll say, and I've been really fortunate to have been surrounded by some phenomenal individuals that are still in my network, and I still text today or pick up the phone and call. And they really took me under their wing and provided me the opportunity to learn and support me and really provided me really great opportunities to really learn and grow. And I think it was really through networking that it provided me the opportunity to take on some of these great opportunities. I was really in the right place at the right time to basically be able to take out some of those leadership opportunities.
You've done it, as I said, most recently at Evanova, and you scaled a whole new operational model. What did that look like, and what sort of challenges were you faced doing that?
So that was my first C-suite role. I had the opportunity actually to step into a digital health spin out of AstraZeneca. And again, it was an opportunity that I was presented with through leveraging my network. And I was provided the opportunity to actually oversee a number of operational units. And I would say one of the things that I really feel most proud of is really standing up within the organization, following the system, and really getting the company ready. Basically, go where it would be audited to be able to support what was necessary to really support a number of the initial business opportunities with customers.
Wow. Okay. So you've talked a little bit about leadership and representation. I know a conversation that we've had before, and you've been very vocal about the importance of diversity in leadership. What changes have you seen in your career? What do you think still needs to happen?
That's a great question. What I'll start by saying is, and I'm not ashamed to say this, is that I actually went to an all women's college. And what I'll say is that that was not something that I sought out. Believe it or not, I was a yearbook advisor in high school, and it was my yearbook advisor that nominated me for a scholarship that I got in, when you're a high school student and you're looking for someplace to go, my family was like, "Hey, you should take advantage of this opportunity." My educational roots really provided me the opportunity to really learn what to be a female leader. And I think as someone who went into technical fields, that's really allowed you to really pay attention to some of the challenges women face, especially if you're someone who is in a technical field. And
Yep.
so, me personally, I pay close attention to things that I think sometimes get overlooked. And I think in particular, there's still are some challenges as it relates to underrepresentation of women on boards. That is something that, I have personally tried to get involved in. I've also actually, in particular, as it relates to underrepresentation and for example, clinical trials, obviously I do for a living. But also, I think for myself, who just paid attention as it relates to hiring decisions within my own organizations, as well as some of the companies that I provide advisory for, is just really trying to help organizations along and just make sure that companies do ensure that they're building well-rounded organizations, as well as, in particular, young women starting out their career, really just having honest conversations with them, in particular, women that are going into tech and some related fields, really just trying to provide the right guidance to just ensure that they're supported as they're going forward in their careers.
Yeah. It's funny because I went to an all girls college, and I'd never really thought about it until doing this podcast and a number of women that I spoke to. And I thought, was it because we didn't have any boys guys, whatever, in the college. So you were competing with women with whatever you did, and working with women, working together, competing together with no kind of mixed egos getting in the way. I know certainly when I entered the workspace, to me it was quite natural just to push myself to the front or to do such and such, where other people were looking at me as if to say, well, you can't really do that. But you're a woman. I mean, the amount of times I heard that. So I think there must be a lot to be said for that kind of all girl education and the benefits that it brings.
No, and first of all, now we know why we connect so well, but it goes back to our roots. But what I'll say is that I think it provided a safe space for learning. So obviously, when you're in a learning environment, and honestly, personally, even today, I've done a lot of my executive education at Simmons University here in Boston. I love to actually learn in that environment because I think it provides a safe space for learning. You need an environment, and I say this to women who I mentor. You need a safe environment to experiment. You never sometimes get things right the first time, and that's okay. I mean, even as someone now that I've been doing this for 25 years, you need a place to just experiment with things and test things out, and that's okay. But also, I think from a learning perspective, it provided that safe environment. And once I left my educational environment, I felt confident to be able to go into the working world and not feel like I had to be second guessing myself. And there have been a number of executive teams where I have been like one of two women sitting on an executive team. And there's something to be said about the old boys club. It still exists today. I mean, you like to cake in it, or it's about to this today. Long you could do the watch the buffet. Like these are things that, when I was in college, we were talking about. It's 25 years later, and we're still talking about some of these things. And they're just things that, you just need to manage through. But I think that for me, at least, there are things that I just pay attention to. And you need to, for me, I just kind of manage through them. I don't let them hold me back. And, I think that's why I think I've been able to just manage through and work honestly in some really big software companies and been able to just be me.
And I've got to be honest, I don't know a huge amount about the kind of software side, but the little bits that I've been involved in recruiting in that area, mainly on the IT side, it does tend to be quite male dominated. Is that still the case?
I would say it's definitely getting better. I would say over the course of my career, it's definitely changed a lot. You think about Oracle, Safra Katz, she's now taken on a big leadership role, a lot of other software companies. And that has been really nice to see and has changed a lot over the course of my career. And that I've been really, really happy to see. And there've been more and more women taking on technical roles. And there's obviously been a big push for women in STEM. And so I think we're definitely seeing a lot of progress in that area. I do think the place where there's still work to be done is obviously women on boards, which is again an activity that I've personally been involved
Yeah, and I see that a lot, which I find frustrating when on boards and also guest speakers at conferences and events or whatever. The panel seems to be very disproportionately aligned to one sex. And the answer when anybody asks, well, why aren't we couldn't find a woman to do that. It's like, how hard are you trying? Because, I could give you a list off the top of my head that would do that. So I think there's also work to advocate for the value that women can bring. But otherwise, the only way we're gonna see any change, right?
Yeah, no, and I mean, for sure, I've been part of some of the organizations I've been part of because I've spoken at their conferences.
Yep.
I've worked with the meeting organizers, and a lot of work has gone into diversity and speakers. Sometimes it's actually the company's willingness to actually allow their employees actually to speak.
Okay. All right.
So at the conferences, it is something that I think a lot of companies we put a lot of thought into. But you're right, I need to continue to do a better job with that.
Just keep pushing. And another area that you and I seem to be quite aligned with is personal branding. And I know that you're out there on LinkedIn. You post some personal posts. I do. I'm a big fan of it, even though and I for anybody who doesn't know, the whole area of LinkedIn is really changing to push more towards that authentic storytelling aspect of individuals. How have you found that for you? What are your thoughts on what you've seen doing that?
So for me, I personally, obviously being in the life sciences and healthcare industry, for me, it's not just kind of job, but I'm an open book about being a patient. So over the course of the last 10 years, I've been through breast cancer, I've been through a brain tumor, I've been through melanoma. I'm a three-time cancer survivor, so I'm an open book about that. That's just me. Not everyone needs to be an open book about it, but part of the reason that I am is because that has just become who I am as it relates to, it's sort of the intersection of my career and what I've gone through as a patient. And I think really over the course of the 25 years of my career and what I've learned as a patient, really for me, it's now been an intersection of what I think we can continue to do within industry. And so as it relates to my own personal brand now has kind of become this intersection of my work as an executive in this industry and what I continue to actually go through as a patient, as someone who is in clinical trials.
Right.
Uh, that's not something that is for everyone, but that's just become who I am. And for me, at least, what that has sparked is actually a lot of conversation with a lot of people in industry around things that we need to continue to do. And I'm actually able to talk about things that not everyone's able to talk about because of the fact that I am in this unique position and that I am in this crossroads and intersection of these two things. I can go into my neurosurgeon's office and be able to have a conversation about technology, but also actually be able to talk about what it's like to be going through something actually as the patient with the handheld device and about the data that's coming off the handheld device and what that means to me as the patient. So
Yeah.
for me, at least, I feel like I want to do what I can do for the rest of the time of my career to be able to help industry, to be able to see what we can do to figure this stuff out. And so, as it relates to LinkedIn, personally, I would say for individuals who feel empowered to use social to be able to do that, I say use your story, use your knowledge, because I personally think that that's how we're going to be able to sort out some of these things and talk about it. Though for those individuals who don't want to talk about it, that's okay.
Right.
Um, it's all about whatever works for you.
Yeah, and also I think it doesn't have to. It can be funny stories, and it's just the idea is of giving your network that opportunity to see the real you, and I think that's where it's beneficial for women because, as you said, there is the old boys club and there is the golf club, and there is men are much more comfortable than the majority of women walking into a bar, knowing nobody and knowing that they'll find a guy to connect with, whether it be about the Giants or the Red Sox or the whatever else it might be. The objective of LinkedIn being a networking platform for women, show your authentic self in whatever way that comes about, because that's how you find your people and build your network without having to feel that you need to do several rounds of golf or the other more traditional ways. And I don't want to sound like an advocate for LinkedIn, although I will post this on LinkedIn and I'm sure that will give me a few credits with them, but it is changing. And I do encourage women to to show their authentic self on LinkedIn and to be present and to post often, which was certainly one of the things that drew me to talk to you, because you are doing it and you are out there. So kudos to you. One of the things I just want to go back on, when you mentioned, there's now a patient and a leader. What are your thoughts on companies who are patient centric, but are they? I need that. It's a very lovely phrase. We're very patient centric. In your experience, are there things that companies could do better to really be able to show that banner of being patient centric?
Yes. So I think, and it's interesting. I actually wrote an article this week, which was all about being the patient advocate, and it generated a number of impressions. And I've actually been connecting with a bunch of people that are complete strangers on this topic.
Great.
But it's all you never know who you're going to connect with. But anyway, it's been interesting in that it's been about technology and obviously educating patients. And so some organizations talk about the putting all this education to patients so that they can make more informed decisions. But at the end of the day, the education, as a patient, because obviously I've been a patient. Being a patient is very overwhelming. So just because you give a patient a bunch of reading material doesn't mean they're going to get it to be able to make informed decisions. So I
Yeah.
think, a lot of these organizations, I think, pride themselves in being able to support patients, but I think it's trying to be really thoughtful about what they're doing and actually making sure that they've done the right amount of research on what it actually means to be a patient.
Yep.
Personally, I feel like a very informed patient because I not only understand technology, but I've also been the patient. And so I can bring those two things together in a unique way. And then obviously, if I'm talking to other people or who are in that a similar position. I think trying to actually come up with something that maybe makes a little bit more sense. I think there's a lot of great tools out there, and I think we can actually help patients. But I think we need to be a little bit more thoughtful around making sure that we are actually putting our time and money into things that actually truly will help patients. At the end of the day, I think that, there's a lot of clinical trials, there's a lot of tools out there to help patients. But at the end of the day, patient gets diagnosed with something. All they want to do at the end of the day is get an answer and be cured or their issues be resolved.
Yep.
And it's done as fast as possible.
Yep.
At the end of the day, um, the average patient doesn't understand the medical terminology or what's going on. And they don't have the patience to figure it out. And
Yep.
it's very overwhelming. It's
Yep.
really trying to figure out how you best support the patient through that process. So I think it's trying to figure out how we pull that together. And I think honestly for me, the key thing right now I think we need to think about that I think is going to try to pull all this stuff together, I think is AI and to be able to do it in a better way.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Another area you, like a lot of people, not just women, have recently found yourself unexpectedly on the job market. How was that? John, I know it's very, very early in the journey, but how has that journey been for you? And what advice would you give to people like me? I'm a recruiter. I'm in the recruitment world. What can we do better to what advice would you have for people like me?
Yeah, what I would say is, first of all, it's the first time in my career I've been in this position. So what I would say is, just because someone's been working for 25 years, I feel like I'm a newbie at this. And so, it sounds kind of cliche, but it's like someone who's got 25 years of experience doesn't know how to job hunt. We're like rookies. It's almost like going back and being a college grad who doesn't
Yep.
know how to look for a job. It sounds
Yep.
crazy. And also when you're a driven executive, you don't have the patience to it's like one day I have a job, the next day I don't, and you're trying to manage the job hunt like you're in a 9 to 5 job, which is on conference calls for 10 or 12 hours a day. You just think you're going to solve it,
Yep.
but it doesn't work that way. I've learned that over the course of the last 8 weeks. So I think trying to coach, especially people who are executives like myself, and that you have to teach yourself through this process. And also, just make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You get your resume in the best possible shape possible. You're really focusing on branding. You're thinking through what you really want to do, and just making sure you're providing honestly the basic tools to be able to set yourself up through the process, and you're in it for the long haul. Um, the second thing I would say is, it's a tough market, and I think it's just trying to, like, set people's expectations around how much time is it going to take. I think from what I've seen, even in the last few weeks, it does seem like the market's turning around, at least from what I've seen. It's a lot of entry and mid-level positions. For someone who's an executive, I feel like I've got an amazing career, and I'm going to jump into the first job that I see. I want to be really around what I do because I want to continue my amazing career. So I think it's partnering with amazing recruiters who are going to help me actually continue my amazing career, even if it means I have to be patient and take some time to do that.
And it's interesting because I did an article a couple of days ago about women. They'll see a job application, and if they can't tick 100% of those boxes, then it's like, I won't apply. And it's a fact that if men think they can do 60% of it, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, okay, that's enough." And invariably, it is, because those requirements are really more of a wish list than actually a need. But what I've found, and again, it's women in particular, they gravitate to the jobs where they can tick 100% of the boxes, but those jobs are like what they did 5 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. So you're kind of now beginning to sell yourself short, and there's nothing worse than being sidelined for a job that you could do standing on your head. It's even more stinging than to be sidelined for a job that you would be it would be a challenge. It would be something that you'd have to stretch into. And I'm really trying to make people aware, please don't apply for those jobs where you tick every single box, because invariably it'll be a job that's several levels down from what your pay grade should be. So exactly as you're doing, stick to your lane. I know where I want to go. Yes, it may take a little bit longer because of the market that we're in, but it will be the right opportunity, and will have a longer term outcome than before. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, because not everybody is you. And I know that there are a lot of people in this space at the moment that are just looking to apply for all and everything. And there's nothing more demoralizing than the rejection, even worse, the ghosting, and not even responding at all. But my view is, if you do less of the right fit, but do the right things, then the rejections are less, because you're in the right lane, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've in my head, obviously, if anyone sees my LinkedIn page, they see a picture of me rowing at the top, because I'm a competitive rower in my spare time. And like, I'm thinking about this job hunt, like rowing a head race, and that, this isn't a sprint race that's 1,000 meters. Like, this is a, 3,600, 4,000 meter race where, like, I'm in it and I'm pacing myself, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm in it and pacing myself, and like, I will get to the end, versus like, I see someone who's already at the race and like one across the finish line. So
Right.
it's trying to pace yourself for the race, or it's like sprinting to the end really quickly. And I mean, it's hard to sprint when that's an executive driven to just try to figure out. And I think the toughest thing about the job market and just looking for a job, because I've been talking obviously to a lot of people, is that it's the unknown, not knowing when is it going to resolve itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my thought every day, actually.
Like, that stuff is hard. And so I told someone yesterday who used to work for me, it's the unknown. And she's like, well, when am I going to get a job? And I'm asking myself the same question every day. And I said, make a list of your goals. And I go, just like me. I said, upskill yourself on AI and make sure you're taking care of yourself. And I'm like, write down the things that you can control right now, because those are the things that are going to make you feel good about yourself at the end of the day.
Yep.
Like, bigger rocks that are going to take longer for us to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, those are things that, are going to take longer, but focus on some things in smaller increments, because obviously, just as a human being, like, gives us more satisfaction at the end of the day.
Some things going. Yeah, excellent. So what does that next opportunity look like for you?
Yeah, so Sharon, what I would love to do is to be able to partner with a CEO as a chief operating officer with a life sciences or healthcare company. At the end of the day, am an operator. So I would like to be a chief operating officer to help drive forward as an operator with a startup company in the healthcare or life sciences space. A company that's really focused on healthcare, life sciences, with clinical data and AI in the industry. I'm passionate about digital health and technology.
Excellent. Okay. And we're doing some of that together as well, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Okay.
You've been hugely helpful with that.
So with all of this experience and everything behind you, and the ups and the downs, and all of the challenges that you faced, what would you say to young Amy, again, who's just thinking about starting out and, oh yeah, software, that sounds like fun maybe or not. What advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out now and has got that journey ahead of them but wants to be in leadership somewhere along the line?
I would say, honestly, at the end of the day, I would tell that person not to be afraid to take risks. Would probably be what I would tell them. I think what has really allowed me to get where I am is to have put myself in those uncomfortable situations, because every single time that I did, I was growing as a person, and it allowed me to move into my next role, learn new skills. When you spoke earlier about when I was at Phase Forward and I moved up quickly and I went from being an individual contributor to a manager to a director, and then suddenly I managed hundreds of people, it was because I put myself in situations, and that's the growth. If you're not in those situations, you're not growing. And so if I was back at myself, or if I was talking to someone that was early in their career, I would say it's okay to be comfortable, but don't get comfortable too long, because you want to grow in your career, being willing to be uncomfortable and be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Comfortably uncomfortable.
Because that's how you grow.
Well, listen, thank you for the time that you've given us today. And I really appreciate it. It's been lovely learning more about you. I knew little bits about you, but it's been wonderful learning more about you and your journey. I know that we're going to be working very closely together over the coming, hopefully not too long, but however long it takes, we'll be in it together. And I wish you every success in what you do next. And I know that whatever company gets you, they're going to be very fortunate.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and it's been a true pleasure, and it's wonderful working with you, so thank you so much.
Pleasure. Speak again soon. Have a lovely weekend.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. She Leads Biotech is brought to you by CNA International USA, a woman-owned boutique search firm based in New York. If you're looking to hire talent for your company or want support in achieving your career goals, please reach out to me at contact@cnaint.com. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And remember, the success of every woman should be an inspiration to another. So don't be afraid to share yours. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.